When I review sound design from up-and-coming sound designers, there tends to be a through line that I see with their sorts of demos and projects. And that thing that I notice really often is often a lack of detail in the sound effects themselves. Usually the sounds are just one layer, or they're too quiet or too soft and don't really match the moment very well. And that's not a harsh criticism of all the sound designers on the planet, because that's exactly the issue that I was struggling with too when I was first starting out in this field and trying to level up my skills too. And the thing is, all these up-and-comers, and me back in the day too, had an issue where we couldn't tell the difference between the stuff we were making and the really good sound design that was out there in games and movies and all that sort of stuff. So it's common when we create something to make something that we think is super good, super detailed, and basically perfectly polished. And then when it's compared to something that is really high-end and extremely high quality, we can't really hear the difference. And that gap of not being able to hear the difference keeps us from making our sound design better and better. There are a bunch of different ways to attack this sound simplicity syndrome that I see all over the place, but one of the methods I want to share with you today is called active listening. Active listening is basically listening really intensely. You basically go out into the world or sit in your own place or office and just listen to the sounds around you. You want to listen extremely closely and pay very close attention to every single little detail of what's going on around you. For example, you might be at an intersection listening to the cars go by. But instead of just sitting there and listening passively like we all do all day, every day, you'd instead dive deep into the minute details of every little sound effect happening in the world. And you can start this really simply. Find somewhere to be and simply ask yourself questions of the sounds happening around you. For example, if you're at an intersection with cars going around you, are there cars close by? Are they far away? How far away can you hear them when they're approaching you? How loud are the engines? What kind of engines are they? Can you tell how heavy a car is based off of what the sound is? You can even go deeper and start asking yourself, how are the sounds bouncing off of the buildings around you? What sorts of effects do the weather have on the sounds around you? Can you hear people? Can you hear dogs barking? How loud are footsteps relative to everything else happening around you? You can even pay attention to the balance of the world around you, almost like paying attention to the mix in a movie. You can start to note what's loud, what's quiet. When something is quiet, how loud does it have to be audible before we start to just ignore it entirely? Spending just 5 to 10 minutes doing this will show a lot of detail to you in the sounds that we hear every single day that we usually don't notice. This whole process is basically like a meditation, and it's actually really difficult to do for long periods of time. While you're just sitting somewhere, listening to the sounds around you and paying very close attention to all the little nuances, you're going to get distracted mentally over and over again. And just like meditating, you'll have to bring yourself back to listening to the world around you, because instead of listening, you'll start to think of things like, what am I going to eat for dinner? Or what should I do tonight? And little questions like that. It's super common to get distracted. But if you bring yourself back to this listening and really focus and dive deep, even if it's just for 5 minutes at a time, you'll really start to notice the details in all the little sounds we hear every day. And the thing is, even after 5 or 10 minutes, you'll probably be pretty tired. You'll know you're doing it right when this feels quite intense. And as you do this more and more, you won't be able to hear the way that you heard the world before ever again. You'll basically hear all the details that you heard before all the time. Now, as you start to hear these nuances and these sounds in the world around you, you'll start to be able to bring these nuances and these bits of character into your sounds as well. You'll start to notice when things are lacking, when things just aren't fitting right. Because now your ear is more used to listening to that deeper and deeper level of detail. And even though maybe you're listening to the sound of an intersection or a park or just a neighborhood in general, those sorts of listening sessions will actually apply to any sort of style or any sort of genre you end up working in. No matter what, you'll basically be able to think, I'm missing some details here. Let me add in some little tails. Let me add some little distance. Basically, you'll be able to start hearing the little bits that are missing from your sound design regardless of genre, and be able to basically insert bits of detail and nuance into your sounds. Things like distance or ambiances or variation in your sound effects. And as you do this more and more, that gap we talked about earlier of not being able to tell the difference between your sounds and the highly produced stuff starts to shrink more and more. And you don't even need to do this with real-world sounds. You can do this with movies or games or anything like that too. For example, when I play a game, I play through it once just completely normally. And as I'm playing through it the first time, I'm not really thinking of the sound design, though subconsciously things will come up and I'll notice, oh, what a cool sound. Oh, how did they do that? But generally speaking, I'm not analyzing it on my first playthrough. But then if a game sounds particularly good, I'll go back and play it again and often turn off the music volume, sorry composers, and then just listen to the sound effects in context over and over and over again. I might just try doing footsteps and walking around, or I might start hitting rocks over and over again just to hear those details in the sound effects that the sound designers were creating. So as you do this for different forms of media as well, you'll start to gain a sharper and sharper ear and kind of know what other sound designers are doing to achieve the results that they're getting. Now, this is just one of the skills that I'm teaching in my upcoming step-by-step sound design course that's coming out in the fall. This is basically a course that'll take you through the 80-20 that you need to become a sound designer in the game industry. It won't teach you absolutely everything that you need to know, but it will help cut out all of the extra fluff that you might run into while trying to upgrade your sound design skill. Basically making it so that you can improve your skill and make good sound effects as fast as humanly possible. So be sure to be on the newsletter too, so you can grab it and know when it's going to come out. The people on that newsletter are the ones who are going to find out when it's coming out and the dates of release first. So be sure to sign up in the description below or in the card up above. All right, that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Go pet a dog.